Start recording? For sure, that's what I'm gonna press. Uh, Test. Also, wait. Can this guy shut up? Can we mute this guy? Oh, wait, there it is. I am finally muted, so that literally doesn't represent a problem. Anyway, uh, do we have it? Yeah. I literally, I'm such a good streamer. I prepared a list. Also, tiny issue. There is like a proper position to speak into the mic. At the same time, it isn't really that much of a good position because if I were to use it, uh, it like picks up. No, no. Okay, it isn't an issue. The problem is that I speak with too many. Is whispering noises? What's the proper word on English? I don't remember. Too much. So yeah, basically that. Anyway, welcome. I Today is another one of those days. I think I don't even know why, but I feel more comfortable when I have the microphone in the hand. It's like okay, I think to some degree the proper excuse is I keep my hands busy. I don't need to think out anything else while I have the microphone in my hand, so I can do that. Anyways, no, no, it doesn't matter really, So going back into stuff. Here we are. Here. What? Why are we here today particularly? You might ask yourself. I don't really have an excuse. I realized mostly last time I had 1,000 things left to say. It's kind of funny that you know you think there is some point in which you run out of things to say, so to speak, and you measure it as a proper action to simply abandon what you wanna do. It doesn't really happen like that. It's more a sort of. I'm feeling. I don't even know if it is tired or what, but I end up deciding that it's better to just commit to silence. I guess on the other end, I guess it's also related to you can only talk about so many things, so your brain becomes fatigued once you reach a certain point in which you mention one too many things. So I guess that's the main reason why. Even though I came here like 2 days ago, I still have stuff to talk about. Sadly, it's not like I finally found inner peace and I don't have anything else to mention. I guess. Also, tiny addition to make. I should have checked if the audio was fine. I didn't. Probably. I need to mute like for 1 second. I should probably. I don't know if I said it last time. When the mouse USB is next to the cable of the microphone, it produces weird noises. So we we are back. Probably it sounds better. Probably. I'm not completely sure what probably. Anyway, good evening. Now for real. So yeah, what was the stuff? I think I should try to go back to having a list. So here we have it. This one is more like I guess, like the teacher who keeps their notes to themselves. Pretty much the same thing here. I have stuff to mention. I decided to keep it to myself. I think I don't really have an excuse, but if I have to make up one in the go, it's more like, oh wow, it doesn't ruin the surprise. Also, it's certainly good in a way in which I understand what I tried to mean. To some degree, probably if I were to look at it in like, I don't know, in a month, I won't really know what it meant, but at least right now that I had it present in my mind very recently, I can kind of mention stuff from here confidently, kinda. Anyways, uh, yeah, uh, more. The fittest thing is simply I, I. You know what? This is my stream. I don't feel comfortable sitting in the chair today. So let me exit here. Let me go to other place. I think the audio isn't really changed. I One of the few things I should have checked, and I didn't, was how it sounded based on where I was. Uh, we are not known here for having the highest quality, so you know what? It doesn't really matter. Anyways, the point was talking about more issues, more problems in general. It's it's something surprising to me to see that the average person. This thing started with. I was kind of trying not to observe. It's something that you see on the daily life, so to speak. It's just a realization of, based on the amount of people that I interact with, how many of them really have problems that didn't happen to some degree or other because of their actions. Not There are certainly condescending ways in which you can say something like that, obviously, but in a more simpler way, basically. Did I make a mistake at some point in my life that led me to later on having to deal with consequences about the stuff that I do not want to deal with, or is it something that I ended up being forced to experience? I think huge distinction takes a lot of time. At least I personally find that it's, I wouldn't say annoying, but it's just weird to realize that so many people talk about all of their, once again, all of their problems and whatnot, and it isn't something that appeared and was forced onto their existence. It's not something that you can't at any point deal with. Not There is a very basic level of interpretation of, oh yeah, this is just getting angry about people complaining. No, it's the necessity to say that things are so much worse than what they are is such that in some cases, what could be potentially a fixable problem ends up being transformed into an overwhelming situation just because we have become accustomed to not even trying to do something about what we experience. It's just a think of. I find myself having to deal with something, and because I might not be willing to check the whole history of things that happened before this, I just find myself to be annoyed and find myself to be bothered by the stuff that happened. And this isn't just the issue of one thing that goes badly, it's the, I think the proper word would be general issue of, and so many things of this sort happen throughout. I don't know. Life is more like a general term, but throughout the daily life, let's say, throughout every single days, one ends up facing hardships, if we have to say it in a different way. And many of those hardships are not created because we find ourselves to be truly annoyed by them, but rather, hmm? Yeah, yeah. I guess it's. I guess if at the very least I wanna be here, I need to be late. So it's better than nothing, anyways. But welcome, Crispin. I hope you're well. I was saying, I was talking about this idea of more problems to begin with, of people. Everybody experiences stuff throughout life, and that stuff in some way or another ends up leading to the accumulation of annoyance, let's say. And this accumulation of annoyance, because we cannot properly deal with the issues that appear not out of nowhere, but rather because we make what's the term, I think, poor judgments or something like that. We are incapable of basically taking the best option, not because in this case we do not know which option is the one that we could classify as best, but rather because we are incapable simply of moving ourselves towards what might be, in some degree or other, better. When that happens, then it becomes a reality that we end up finding ourselves to be more and more annoyed at this stuff. And the moment in which we have enough issues that we have not tried to resolve is the moment in which we end up. I think that's the common experience. We end up overreacting to everything else. We end up exploding at the next minimal problem that we have. And we end up certainly creating an even bigger mess. There is something funny about you have whenever you get angry, you have to deal now not just with the problems because you are conscious about them, but you also have to deal with the problem of being angry, something that we do not like. In general, even if we have tried 1,000 times to talk about anger as something that isn't really a negative emotion, or that even if it were to be not the best of the emotions, it isn't the one that you need to be most avoidant of, let's say. That the reality is, no matter how much we talk about it, still being angry is yet another problem. So not only you have to deal with every other problem, but also you have at the end of the day to deal with the problem of getting angry at stuff. And this is in general such a negative thing, not because it just happens. I think it's probably, if I had to choose some sort of justification, maybe too much of an unconscious life is what ends up leading most people to live such things, to experience such things. It's, at least personally, I find it annoying to see somebody who, having so many possibilities, end up choosing the thing that they themselves can say is bad. And over the long run, not only having chosen poorly, but also getting angry at their decision when it was a willful one. I I think it is, to some degree, I do not like this idea of. I remember when I was thinking about it for the first time, I do not like this idea of we are creatures of time. We do not really grasp the concept of time. In many cases, the most present explanation for people making rather bad decisions in their life is you forget that there is a tomorrow, so to speak. If you are confronted by something that you see as an incredibly dangerous problem in the moment, you're not going to take the best decision for the whole rest of your life. You're just going to take the best decision for that instant, and you're going to base yourself on the most direct thing that you can in order to try and survive, nothing else. So it becomes an issue of not being capable of truly seeing that there are better decisions when you sort of take your time, but it's at the same time, it's impossible to be capable of doing that. Most people don't get that gift of stopping and considering what's the best thing to do and what's the most righteous one to act upon. You just find yourself, after solving one problem, with the necessity to deal with the next one. And I think I have heard it at this point too many times. I do not really have a free time. It isn't that we do not have situations in which we can do nothing. It's the issue of there are so many things that one needs to be constantly catching up to that in the end, the final issue or the real issue is not being capable of managing what is life. I know many people who are not really living the life that they would like to. Not because they are, so to speak, incapable of having the one that they wish for the most, but rather because they don't even have a time throughout their life to think about what they would even like to do, since every single situation is always overwhelming them. There is a lack of downtime, so to speak, that they could have if those sort of people were to try and see that maybe if I weren't rushing ahead as fast as I can in order to deal with every single problem that arrives at my doorstep, maybe, and only maybe, I could then finally find myself to be free from any kind of annoyance or whatever. It's it's a situation of, in the end, a situation of too many people are living in a sort of, I wouldn't say artificial. Anybody who is around a very chaotic person, if you want to say it like that, realizes, yeah, for them it's not in no way an artificial thing. It's their whole reality. But it's an unnecessary thing. It's an unnecessary problem that exists in so many cases and that takes so much place in everybody's life to some degree or another. It never stops being an issue. It's to some degree you might be better at, I don't know. For example, I can only give examples that are the easiest for me. I can only say, for example, I might be capable of talking out anything that is philosophically inclined with a lot more ease than if I were to be conversing with someone about anything that has to deal with any other subject that I have never in my whole life investigated, for example. So it will be a logical thing to assume that the moment in which I have to deal with someone who needs to hear from me a piece of knowledge that I certainly lack, or even if I were to have it, I cannot retrieve it in the exact moment in which I am told that I needed to recite it, it would become for me an unavoidable issue. And I might take bad choices like getting nervous instead of being capable of managing myself and whatever. And everybody finds themselves to be overwhelmed to some degree or another, unavoidably. But at the very least, trying in every instant that it is a possibility to not be so annoyed by life itself. I think it's it sounds weird because it happens in every situation to some degree or another. I think so. We are just more capable of dealing with what we have become accustomed to, but even in the most normal and regular ones, you are still challenged by the stuff that happens to you, and you are still getting bothered by the things that you see and the things that you hear, even if on the surface, because this is also part of what I was trying to talk about, even if in the surface you seem to be fine, everybody can on the surface look fine. It's there is a bad saying that I have heard one too many times that I personally do not like. People are more see-through than what they think. No, the reality is, unless you're incredibly proficient at picking up cues, be it social, emotional, subtle cues about someone. Yeah, and that will require you to know the person previously, unless you're that sort of person. Most people can, for a dozen hours, hold themselves incredibly well. Most people can live their whole lives when they have to confront the outside in a manner that seems to that same environment fine, and they do not need to be doing exactly fine. It isn't about what other people notice, it is about the internal. I don't want to say struggle. On one hand, it isn't really a struggle. At this point, I am not talking about, I don't know, any kind of idea more complicated. I'm not mentioning anything like trauma or anything that is associated with past wounds or whatever. It's just the accumulation of those negative emotions that happens when bad decisions are taken and when the unavoidable consequences reached, be it through any means. It's just the reality of I wish I could be in the present doing better. I think most of the people that I know, and that's what I was trying to think about, most of the people that I know don't really have a bad life because of unavoidable conditions. It's just a bad life because the way in which you're experiencing this act of being alive isn't truly, in the most basic way, it isn't enjoying the act of being, it is reacting to what life throws at you. It's very much in line with that. I don't know, at this point, I assume it's an old saying or something like that, at least for me. I find it as something that is supposedly old. This concept of, oh yeah, in reality, there are some people who are only reacting, while the real goal is to be immersed in the moment, not just living a reactionary life in which you're just not motivated, you're just needfully activated by things that happen to you instead of being capable of you acting on the world, so to speak. And I don't know, it's just on the most basic level, it becomes a bad thing. At the end of the day, most people could have a better existence, if you want to say it like that, if they were to try and spend some time measuring, seeing what they have right now, and trying to take any kind of decision about what they might be capable of doing. What could be a better choice that might take some more time, that might seem to be a little bit more painful, but that will lead to a better conclusion. It's something that I hate hearing is the commodity of, oh no, yeah, this thing seems hard. And not because, oh yeah, suffering justifies the act that you will perform. No, it's even if it is something complicated, if the reward is good enough, you must try to endure. It's not. Most people don't have to deal with anything that is life threatening, but it has become so normalized to avoid any kind of annoyance that in the end the real issue becomes I have become so avoidant of everything that the decisions that I end up taking don't really benefit me, but seem momentarily to allow me to not deal with any other kind of annoyance that might appear in my life later on. Or not even to that degree, it's just I don't have to deal with any other annoyance when I am doing with this one thing, when I am dealing with this one activity, so I am free from that. It's not so easy, man. I wish, I think, I was thinking about a lot of things that one supposedly wishes about. I wish life was easier in that sense, but it isn't. Wishful thinking has to some degree some usefulness, but it doesn't alter the wholeness of the world around you. You cannot make it out of nowhere be so much better just because you're avoiding everything else. And it's not also, it's not the issue of avoidance, because there is a very particular way in which avoidance is talked about. And if we were to try and use any kind of word once again, like avoidance, it would be for the properly etymological usage of the word wrong. It's not a life of avoidance. It's not a life that has nothing. Most people find themselves in this position, and it is not because they are just avoiding all things. It's pain. It's that degree of annoyance. It's a minimal degree of avoiding stuff. It's what society, to some degree, I don't know. At this point, I had also been trying to understand it better. I think society is overly used, or I personally just have it as a blanket term. Society means nothing, man. We are so incredibly disconnected from society, but it sounds better at the very least than to accept, oh yeah, it's a problem of, it's my problem. I cannot realize that I am taking decisions that hurt me in the end. It's better to say, oh yeah, this big society, this big monster of a community that keeps me annoyed, and this bad thing, this very bad dragon that is aiming at me at every single instance is the problem that I have. I don't have any problem. It's just something that oppresses me. I don't know. Even if we don't live in the best reality, society itself isn't that fucked up. It allows for a lot of things. We do not really care about any of this stuff. If we were capable of talking about all of these issues, there wouldn't be issues at all. But that doesn't mean that society itself is as a whole wrong because of that. It's not the top priority to some degree. The well being of the individual supposedly rests on the hand of the individual. If you wanna be living a good life, you should be trying your best personally to have a good life. And even if you face bad experiences, even if you have any kind of, I already used the word for that, but adverse experiences, you can, as long as you find a proper way to move forward, do it. It's not so complicated. It's just complicated in the way in which one decides to ignore stuff. It's a life of willfully ignorance that drives the human in so many ways to a state of complete, I wouldn't say destruction, it's just desolation. You realize at some point, I started, or if I didn't start exactly with that, at some very soon, very close to the beginning, I said it myself. Last time I was here, 2 days ago, I think. At some point, you realize this is fucking shit, man. I am taking decisions that make me be enjoying the present, but in the long run, I am not really happy. I am not satisfied at all. I am completely displeased with most of the stuff when I have the full picture. When I can look back and see what I had been doing. I think all of those things were a complete mistake. Or even if they weren't the worst actions that I could have ever taken, they were certainly not so good. I could have tried more. It's the that responsibility that we supposedly have, every single one of us, with ourselves. You should be capable of taking care of yourself. And inside of that clause is you should be capable of also observing that you possess some degree of potential, using your potential for something that you seem to care about. It's the world doesn't care. And one of the many advantages is it doesn't let you not do things. It's not a place in which you are forced to avoid a certain dream, so to speak. But if you never take in any way any kind of action that allows you to at least try to move forward, how does one expect to find themselves to be better? It's it's always getting angry at things and finding themselves to be in I, I, I don't know if it is the best term, but a mental place, but it seems like one of the most unavoidable conclusions. If I am not doing what I want, if I am not doing what I truly seem to be interested in, how can I look back and say that I am right now, or I did what pleased me? It's it's just a little bit of honesty, I guess. I don't like that. It's this discourse of, yeah, we are always dealing with ourselves at the same time, trying to connect it with the next thing that I have there. Because I remember from one thought I had to jump to the other one. It's this issue of, oh yeah, you're always dealing with yourself and you're always talking with yourself. You're always in this internal conversation, internal struggle. You can even say in this tug of war, pulling forces that move you to either one side or the other. You always choose where you end up at. It's not so easy, man. It's not such an easy situation. Not most of us not do not have that privilege. Most of us do not really have the need to think. I remember mentioning something along those lines yesterday. Are you really dealing with yourself when you're given a tool that literally allows you to only place your mind in any kind of entertainment? You are not being with yourself, sitting next to your own thoughts. You don't have anything like that. You always have some sort of entertainment, some sort of peace that keeps your mind and the attention that it has grabbed. It's an impossibility to say, yeah, most of us can make proper choices if we don't even try to find a way out of what is this continuous, I wouldn't even say, categorically speaking, or once again, etymologically speaking, consumption is the proper term. It isn't consumption, man. You're not consuming anything. If most of the things that you see enter your eyes, last in your mind, 5 minutes, and after that you completely forget everything that you saw, are you truly consuming stuff? I don't think so, brother. I like the idea of, yeah, I am so immersed in the process of consumption or what, it doesn't happen. That's not the reality. You are not consuming things. You're not learning anything. It's not a process of, wow, yes, I am gaining anything. You're just keeping yourself busy, and that's it. And in that same process, that's what I was trying to talk about. You, there is no you, there is just content, and there is just this thing that keeps this silly person that we call ourselves entertained. But there is no real experience or real trouble of, wow, I have to sit with my negative thoughts. Once again, what I said before of most people don't have issues. Most people don't have to sit with their own thoughts. Most people don't have to sit through that quote unquote bad experience. Most of us have the capacity, pleasure, or however you want to call it, of, yeah, you know what? I can just sit here and enjoy consuming more and more things that might as well be mind numbing. But if I do it, at least I don't have to deal with anything else of reality. I don't need to be immersed, I don't need to be trying to consider, yeah, trying to consider anything else. I can just be, and I can just, once I get the sensation, once I have any kind of need, I can just move and do that. I, I can, let's say it like this. Yeah, most of us here, to some extent or other, consume video games. So it's easier to draw a comparison from games. You just set up your run, just find the way in which you think it will work the best, and from there on, move on, nothing else. It's not a really complicated existence. It's just, okay, I have these steps that I need to follow, these things that I need to do, and that's it. In the meanwhile, you can keep yourself completely empty of any other idea. Keep yourself not at all engaged with any other point or any other thing that you might be or could have ended up being interested in. I mean, one of the things, at this point at least, I have already heard one too many times is, I wish I could have liked that thing. I wish I could have dedicated more time to those things. It's so weird to see that people seem to be completely destroyed mentally in that sense. It's like that is in the next corner, so to speak, when in reality it's just you still have so much time in front of you, and you are going to say now that it's impossible for you to do anything entertaining, to try and do anything that feels good. It's such a bothering thing. I don't know, man. I just think it's this issue of, oh yeah, I I I do not even like being up there. It's this inner monologue dialogue that I have with myself, these conversations that I find myself having are so, are they, man? Are they really that annoying? If you give yourself half an hour of negative things and the rest of your wake time being used on some form of consumption, is it really something that you are doing? I don't think. It's just one of the best pictures I mentally have is, imagine a river. Is the river really that full of garbage. If you only check in the morning, I'm pretty sure that the river has garbage from time to time, but if you were to check, you might find out that in the morning, people go out and throw trash into the river. The very same thing happens in the brain. The first ideas that you might have might not be the best, but after that, everything else might be to some degree better. And after that, things might to some degree be not so bad. It's you're not really living with what you are. If you need to constantly have something like music, reading something, consuming something, watching any kind of entertainment, doing instead of thinking, it will obviously be bad the moment in which you have to deal with every other thing that you have ignored. Because you haven't even explored the possibilities. It's this issue of, yeah, I can easily say to myself, because I have done it 1,000 times, thinking could be a playful thing. But if you only have so far a backlog of 1,000 different negative ideas that you are still needing to properly attend to, it will never be an enjoyable thing. It cannot in any way be an enjoyable thing. If all the issues are always there, it's the same thing with. And now I think I have to some degree elaborated enough to mention more properly because I tried to make a distinction before. This isn't about trauma or anything like that. It's just daily life. The daily wounds that happen. Real trauma is even worse in that sense. There are so many things that need unpacking, and there is so much work that needs to be done. Proper recognition of the issue, proper interest in ever seeing anything that might be wrong. It's impossible to just out of nowhere say, yeah, I am having a bad day. It doesn't happen. Everyone might be having a bad day, but you just cannot give up on the possibility of, and then you know what? I could try to see. I could try to understand what is happening. I could try to not be so condemned by actions that I take that I do not like at all, but I cannot keep avoiding. Yeah, sorry, that I cannot avoid taking time and time again. It's impossible for everyone to solve things if you don't dedicate to some degree your attention to what happens. Yet this expectation of, yeah, one day things are going to get better, one day everything will go in the right direction. It's the same thing to some degree with procrastination and whatnot of, oh yeah, one day everything might be better. Once again, as examples, one day I could stream because everything else will go throughout my day in the best direction possible. I don't know, man. If you're not actively trying things to make it happen, are you sure that at all they will happen? If you set yourself up to later on just say, oh wow, yeah, I nothing went in the direction that I wanted. I did nothing to make sure that those things happened, but nothing went in the direction that I wanted. It was impossible for me to find things that could assist them in that, and it was impossible for me to do anything that could aid in that goal. I don't think it's that much of an honest message to say, yeah, I could try to do something. I could try to do stuff when most of us never live lives of that sort. Not because it's impossible, because the issue is such a normalized one that it's impossible to get rid of such a habit. But even then, it's not like recognition is nothing. I remember that some time ago even I said I don't get why recognition equals resolution. The capacity to recognize a problem is a huge part in being capable of dealing with the problem itself. And the reality is, even if you are not consciously actively trying to solve things, one of the wonderful things that the brain itself has is this mechanism of the unconscious, subconscious mind, however you want to call it, that allows you to think about stuff without actively being engaged in the process of thinking. At some point, the things that you see, the things that worry you, the things that you have seen as problems become something that you can finally solve because the solution itself ends up being found, even if it isn't once again consciously by you, still it is a part of you that engages the most in the process of trying to process itself things. But in general, there are many issues. There are I say it too many times. There are 1,000 issues and there are 1,000 problems like that. So it's understandable, I think, that failure is such a common thing because so that's something that I like. Failure has become sort of a special word, a special category. Not everyone is a failure. Very few people can be called failures. Are you sure that being so so incapable of criticizing yourself is going to help you in any way, man? Are you capable of realizing that maybe not trying to recognize issues is going to allow you to develop in any manner? Is lying to yourself and saying that, oh yeah, I didn't have any mistake in my life. I didn't have any failure. Going to truly give you that edge that will make you get what you want, so to speak. Just seeing that things went wrong and being capable of accepting that, then moving on, is 1,000 times better than this willful ignorance. It's not blissful in any way. If you already know that there were things in the past that you did wrong, and you keep on lying to everyone, saying, no, nothing is bad, nothing went so bad or wrong, that there was no issue, there was no problem, everything is as it should be. Maybe not, man. Maybe not. Recognizing that things could have taken a better turn is good. If you can at least learn from the past, that's one of the most, once again, fundamental ideas. Those who cannot understand their past cannot truly have a better future. If you cannot see before what was a negative thing, why would you believe that what stands in front of you tomorrow is going to be any better? I, I don't know. It's just a complicated matter. Not because it's complicated itself. It's just the way in which people likes to say stuff that makes it more complicated than what it really needs to be. But no idea. Also, welcome, Flower. Good night, I guess. But yeah, um, I should drink some water. So also, yeah, I should drink some water. And probably I saw that this microphone, the cable of this microphone has like a weird twist. I should try to get rid of it. Uh, so yeah, give me like a second because I said before when I move the cord, it somehow picks up the noise. Like what hear this. Don't watch it, hear it. sorry, sorry. I shouldn't do that, but sorry. Okay, that is solved. Issue solved. We are so back. Problem is I didn't drink water. Anyways, so noticed? Yeah, I think. Think. Ah, uh, they are finished here. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I like it because at some point I hope I ended up shouting. Once again I was thinking about it. I probably didn't say it in the proper term yesterday. I like that I forget about most of the things that I mentioned, but I think I didn't say clinical psychosis or psychosis of the clinic. I said something like neurosis. That's completely different term, wrong term also. But yeah, um, this is always psychosis of the streamers, probably new form of is this schizoanalysis? Maybe, 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 but we will never know, brother. Anyway, what clinical? Okay, yeah. Let me explain the term properly. There is clinical psychosis, not schizoid, clinical. That is the process that supposedly happens. Uh, this is like textbook definition. The process that happens inside of the clinic itself, inside of the room, when you are mostly with a psychoanalyst, in which the transmission happens. This underlying process of communicating something without exactly talking about it and whatnot. They use the term clinical psychosis because at the end of the day, you're kind of trying to control the psychotic episode because you're forcing the person to adapt to a completely new, most of the times, negative to what their previous beliefs used to be idea, in a way in which they can also understand it properly and integrate that into their systems of mental organization, so to speak. So the term itself, clinical psychosis, is used inside of that. I wouldn't trust my definition. I wouldn't trust myself with anything, but I wouldn't trust my definition also. I will check on it. But yeah, I think that's the proper one. So yeah, based on that, this also isn't a clinic, so this isn't clinical psychosis. This is more like streaming psychosis, probably. If we had to invent anything new, I'm just making shit up, brother. Anyway, anyway, completely anyway. As if that doesn't happen. Never. I'm certainly the most rigorous person. Anyways, what's up? I had to check on stuff. What did I mention? I had like, let me see, 6 topics written down. How many did I mention already? I think like two at the very least. I need to. Oh my god. I hate I hate chairs so much, man. Anyway, let me see. We're done with wait, the first one. I kinda mentioned that. Kinda. At the same time, it's like once again, I write this stuff down. I didn't really say that I mentioned it properly. There are different ways how it's talking about the same issue that make it harder, but it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Also, somehow I mentioned already another one. I didn't notice. I guess. Uh, I'm so at this thing of uh, speaking the harder. Yeah, what the fuck? How did I mention also this? How did I mention time? Anyway, it seems that I haven't live for like less than an hour. How the fuck did I go over so many things? What's I speaking English? Anyway, uh, at the very least, we have other three things completely unrelated, but those three are Gucci, I guess. Anyway, don't worry about it. Don't worry. That's the final point of this lecture. Don't worry. Life is better when you don't worry. You know. Um, anyway, sorry for the intermission. Uh, it's like when your teacher has a list of notes and he drops the notes that he should be following. That's literally me, basically. Except I'm not a teacher. I'm just a guy. I'm just a silly little guy. Wow. No. True? Yeah. So true. So true, Umphy. Also, why is the microphone? Why is? Give me a second. Why is the microphone sounding weirder? I didn't turn down the volume. Why isn't it peaking like? Okay, there it is. It wasn't peaking like before. Anyways, we are so back. Let me see how. Okay, you know what? There is no way to properly start with these things. So let me just start with them. Anyways, it's like the issue is always starting. Starting is the what's the problem of all. Like once you realize that you have already started, it becomes so much more bearable than what your mind can truly tell you. Let's say it like that. So yeah. Anyways, um, this one I said before. I have it in my notes. I know that if other people want to read it, you cannot get what I compressed in one meaning. But does it get any better? It says, what does it even mean? Why? What did I try to mean with that? Why did I write that? I'd like that if probably anyone else reads that, they will say, "What the fuck is this guy?" Okay, but anyways, does it get any better at all? That was something that I don't know. I do not like talking with people when they bring it when they bring stuff like that up. I think that the issue is most of the time one just starts to give up, and the question itself of is anything going to get better? Just a way to set up oneself and the expectations that they have for a worse outcome, like what reality might hold in the future, so to speak. It's this whole discussion about will things finally get better? Just another way of silently, I don't know, this is supposedly a common term nowadays. These people who have silently given up, these this whole generation that supposedly existed, even of quitters, so to speak, those who have in general decided to just, in the face of the adversities that the present actually gives to every single human, in some way or another, just not do as much. This whole idea of nowadays people are not so interested in working wholeheartedly. They just do the bare minimum to get the bare minimum pay. People are not interested in hoping so much, in doing great things for humanity, because humanity doesn't seem to care about them at all. I do not think it's a properly framed issue. It's not that people simply give up. It's pretty much in line with what I was trying to mention before of, oh yeah, you know what? People people are tired, man. Most of most, if not every single one of us, has to deal with problems that come not from the present, but from everything else that happened before, that is manifesting itself negatively in the present. So you are forced to deal with things that burden you and that you should have dealt with before, in a way in which you can finally keep on living while also accepting that things might not even be in any shape, so to speak, nice. Nicer, not because you are dreaming of something nicer, but just because you are interested in a life that is less painful. So it's an annoying concept to try and think about that things might at some point get better. It's this idea of, I do not want the future me to have it better, I want the present me to have it better. It's the acceptance of overstimulation by entertainment, local stress, and the biased news. Yeah, I mean, certainly overstimulation plays a huge role. It will be a lie to say that we are not overstimulated, even in I don't know, in entertainment is the easiest way to say it. But even in the silence, most of us, and certainly even more to anybody who lives in any kind of big city, quote unquote big, has to deal with the issues of even in those moments of nothingness, there is no real silence. You don't get to enjoy silence like before. You don't get to have a break from the rest of the world. And you don't get to have a place in which emptiness can be allowed into life. You just have moments in which, while you are trying to rest, everything else keeps happening around you. I don't know, it's like you can say that you're resting inside the bus. It's one of the most stressful things to experience. The subconscious amount of alertness that you are exerting just to keep yourself safe from the idea of trying to understand and trying to see how stuff goes around you and trying to see, I don't know, it shouldn't be that schizophrenic to say, oh yeah, I want to keep an eye out because I don't know if the next person that goes up my bus might have a fucking knife and try to kill somebody, you know? You're always on the edge to some degree, even if you are actively just sitting there chilling, quote unquote. It doesn't happen. And even in the same way, you could be taking a break, but everything around you is noisy as fucking, man. You cannot allow yourself to have a real break like that. And I don't know, it's unavoidably something that makes you be more and more annoyed. It's more and more things that set you up so that in the end, once again, what the conclusion was, this question of, is there going to be anything better in the future? Is the future going to be better? Is tomorrow going to be more bearable than today? It's not a real question. It's not something that somebody asks with hope, I don't think most grown ups talk about such things in the way that a kid does. It's just a sort of already answered question, something that you know isn't going to happen, because everything else that you experience is bad. You don't have enough things that allow you to be trustful of what might be. It is always uncertain future. I I I think everybody can agree that to some degree or another, the future is uncertain. So unavoidably, when you're already so destroyed by different issues that happen around you, you find yourself in the end, if you are doing bad right now, how can you even expect things to be better in the future? It's it's a lie. It's a meaningless lie to say, oh yeah. And whenever we talk, me and my friends, in the normal settings, we discuss these things and we look towards the future, ask ourselves, is tomorrow going to be better? In a hopeful manner. Most people don't have that. Most people do not get the privilege of thinking like that. One, one of the things that I hope I already mentioned here, most people do not get even the benefit of thinking what will happen tomorrow. If you have to live in the present always, how can you hope to look towards the future if every single issue that you should have dealt with is overwhelming you right now, and every single other social factor that should have allowed you to, in those moments of rest, properly just rest and nothing else, it's an incomprehensible idea at that point in the arrangement of things that you will look towards the future and have some way of seeing things in a meaningful way. Not because things themselves are not meaningful, but because the life that most people are in some way, I wouldn't say forced to live, but allowed to live without any kind of proper reprimand, leads them to such empty moments. It's one of the things that I always hate. We live in an era of quote unquote emptiness. No, man. We have so many things that are in so much more interesting than ever before and so much more developed than ever before. Yet we are still trying to understand how is it that anybody could have any kind of meaningful objective in life. It shouldn't be a question. It's not something that you can't answer by looking at those who have it, so to speak. It's not something that is tomorrow going to be better. Not It's not a question that is posed by the person who is commonly seeking for a future. It's just the final. If you want to give it a better framing, it's just one of the final, so to speak, struggles of the person who is getting every single day overwhelmed by the things, by once again this uncaring world. But it's not something so bad to live in this world. At the same time, if nothing else, the degree of possibilities is such that it's overwhelming always. That is one of the most amazing advantages of this current, so to speak, reality. But it's also not a reality in which things are expected of anyone. Expectations are mostly things that one creates from oneself and nothing else. If you somehow believe that things are going to be better based on what you are trying to make others also see, It's just going to be an impossible task. Other people do not have the capacity to see what oneself does. Not because this is also one of the ideas that I hate. People are not stupid. I wish it was as easy as to say, oh yeah, people are stupid. No, man, everybody is busy living their own life. And that's the reality. I cannot be bothered to deal with every single issue that most of the people that I know have. Because I am already encumbered enough by the things that I have to deal with myself. I wish it was my possibility to have nothing going on in my life to the degree to which I can also help everyone else to deal with everything that happens in their life. But if nothing else, at the very least, I have the agency to deal with what exists in the mind to the degree to which I can assure myself that what happens in the future is going to be safe enough and that the consequences that come later on are not as bad. Assuming that everything is bad, this present tendency of negativism and once again something that I tried to not say exactly yesterday, but I'm pretty sure I have already mentioned at some point. This quote unquote realism of things are bad. Reality is not so and so at all. It is just being cynical. It's not being truly objective when you say, oh yeah, reality isn't so nice. I don't know, man. Reality just is. You can make the observation about it that you want, but the reality is nothing. Reality is what you make out of it. It's just that. It's not such a suffering world, but also it is at the same time, yes, certainly it is as nice. I wish it was the most wonderful thing, but it isn't the most annoying thing to be alive, the most cumbersome thing to have to deal with the act of existing. No, I don't know, man. It's just. I know at this point I'm probably screaming, so thank you. I should have calmed down earlier. But anyways, that's the point, I guess. These are things going to get better? Yes. In India, things are going to get better. But that's not a real question. Most people don't really ask that. I wish it was a real question. I wish people talk about it in a proper way. But that's what I wanted to say before. It's just a setup for a negative conclusion. People don't talk about possible futures in ways that are amazing. There is something wonderful about quote unquote growing up. You gain the ability to understand what are utopic and dystopic realities, and at some point it becomes a childish activity to think about utopic futures. It's only useful to have in mind dystopic possibilities. You can only think about how the human race is going to fuck up and be forced to become slaves to higher beings. You can only think about how the human being is going to become addicted to everything that they create, to the degree to which they are bound to their creations and the machines rule. You can only think about everything that has to deal with a completely authoritarian society where no one is free of doing anything. Is that the point? Do I gain anything if I keep being so utterly negative? Does do my days become better if I make them as miserable as possible whenever I have to think about the future? Is it meaningful to do that? I don't I don't understand so many of the people who talk about such things in that way. It's it's that once again that coldness of oh yeah, I I am trying to just be real with you. It's unavoidable. We all have mobiles and PCs and some form of technology, we are all going to be very close in not such a distant future. We are all going to be controlled by machines because we are already being monitored by our governments. Togolman, do you think that is going to make anything better? To already give up. From the get go, we are already giving up. That's how things work. That's how your life should go. Not in something. It doesn't matter. That's what I don't like. Oh, yeah. But it's so crazy. I have to fight against the system. That's impossible. I don't know, man. You can think about it. Most of the time, you can, at the very least, try it. That's what's funny. You don't have a recognition. Nobody has the capacity to predict the future. Nobody can tell if the plan that you can come up with is good or not or no. To be capable of dealing with the issues of any kind of problem that you see. This mentality of giving up before even starting is so annoying because of that same thing. This question of are things going to get better is annoying in the same way because it's not a question. You're not asking anything. We're not talking about anything. Nobody is going around asking other people, are things going to get better? It's just a discussion between two fucking depressed adults saying, oh my god, my life is a complete mess. Are things going to get better at any point? Man, the possibility of acting is such that in so many ways things could get infinitely better. But it doesn't compute in the minds of most because the norm is to simply give up before even thinking about trying at this point. But I don't know. Solanin? I don't even know what is Solanin, but yeah, don't worry. And also, have an awesome night, Crespian. Thank you for everything. It has been a wonderful night. I don't know. I kinda ran through the stuff that I had written a lot faster than what I expected, than what I anticipated. I was picturing like, oh yeah, today I should try to go for like 3 hours. If I'm not even sure about my capacities of being consistent and whatnot, I can at the very least try to go for a little longer whenever I do present. So I don't know. If anything else happens, arises in my mind, we can go for longer. If not, but anyways, thank you, Respin. That's the proper point. And yeah, I know your concerns. I'm keeping myself hydrated. Don't worry. Have a good night. Thanks. But yeah, basically that. I guess that's one of the things I wanted to say. Not probably not exactly with that. It's always something that I try to come back to. It's to some degree. I like this idea of being hero because it isn't really. This is sort of what I wanted to mention before on on the process of thinking, on the process of having to sit with oneself. You don't really have to sit with your own thoughts. This is very much the same thing. I don't really have to sit with what I am talking about here. I'm just kind of explaining stuff that I already said. In many cases, it doesn't really come in a way in which I am facing, I don't know, facing the demons on whatever sort of language that is commonly used to refer to the act of thinking. It's just you shape something that you like, you talk about it, and that's it. That's the whole sum of the thing that happens. It's just, I guess, privately, I have already tried to think about this stuff, but most of the time it's just the same thing. Say that yet again here. That's the only quote unquote difference. But I don't know. It's always, I guess that's at the very same time temporal. It's always that necessity to filter stuff out. I sort of already mentioned that yesterday. Yesterday? Not yesterday. The other day. That there are so many norms that make it look like it is so necessary to filter things before ever opening your mouth, so to speak. And that's what annoys me also. Because the moment in which you become proficient enough at talking, you acquire enough rules that are silently added to any kind of language, so to speak, so that, or any kind of context, so that you understand which things you can mention, which things you can't. And it becomes an annoying thing when this idea takes such a center place. You cannot say things if you haven't lost half of your life trying to understand what you are going to say, the possible consequences. It's very much the same thing with acting, with what I was talking about before, with what I was trying to say. I wish people were capable of taking a sudden change in their destiny and being capable of moving forward with something completely new that they have always wished to. But the reality is, most people don't have that privilege. The social norms that are around you obligate you to follow what you have already been doing. It is impossible to create a sudden change because you will not only be going probably against what used to be your older self, but also you're abandoning everyone else's expectations about you. After creating such a solid image, you're going as far as to damage what everyone else has to believe about you. And that's when it becomes an issue. That's when it gets framed as something negative. The moment in which most who try anything new seem to lose the battle. Because at the end of the day, it's. I probably already said it in a very different context, I hope. But it's this idea of what this guy, this one writer already mentioned, this illusion of liberty. You cannot really do whatever you wish to out of nowhere. If you do so, you're abandoned by the system. And you are just confronted by something completely new that most of the time damages what you used to do. But I don't know. It's just a lack of trust. And I think if I had to try and say it in any way, I just think it's existent at all levels. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be something so common, but in the end, not only we do not trust each other, we do not trust what we could do. It's the most logical reasoning that anybody can follow. If you cannot even trust what you can do, how do you expect to do anything good enough? If you cannot act in a way in which you feel like what you are doing might have a good result, how can you get to a place that feels nice enough? If the things that you are aiming for are done so with actions that you do not trust in, not even because they are done by other people, but because in your own self you do not see someone who might be capable of doing things, how is it that you expect to get good results? And at the same time, if you were to try and say that the solution is as easy as to just trust yourself more, it doesn't happen. Now you're even going against the rule of you shouldn't be so trustworthy of your own judgment. You shouldn't be so naive as to believe that what you might be doing is in any way the best decision possible. I don't know. There are, if anything, there are way too many fucking catch 22 so that's what I guess. Too many things that are just, oh yeah, you're not doing this one thing, then you're already failing. And if you were to try to do it, you will also be failing because rules are rules. We do not really get why they are like that, but we know that we must respect them. Experiment of the monkey. Monkey's an liar, basically. But anyways, I don't know. What I know is I probably should take a break. That's all I can say. I should probably leave for like 1 minute. Uh, uh, the word is idol meeting. So yeah, I that's basically. I need to leave for 1 second. Thank you. Anyways, let me let me see. I don't know. I said before. I wish to, if anything else, go for longer. So I have a minimal list of things. I will probably also trust my judgment a little bit more in whatever I say after that. Anyways, uh, not really back. Just you know, if you stay too silent, you might lose the track of the things that you were saying. So yeah, uh, making white noise. This is basically white noise. Anyways, let me ring something. Haha. What was it? Chair moves equals fart. Haha. So funny. Anyway, also I keep forgetting that I shouldn't be using the mouse. It's disconnected. I naturally go to reach for it and suddenly it doesn't work. Anyway, let me remove the last thing that I already mentioned because I already mentioned that. So if I see it yet again, I will lose it, man. Anyway, Uh, where are we? Sorry. Ah, okay. We're now for real. We're back. Do you hear that? That's the time. Anyways. ah. Um, next thing. It was about. I mean, sort of, literally in the same line as what I mentioned before about talking, mentioning ideas that are not ripe enough. That's the title of the idea. That's the title of the thing. It's it was. I think it's like on one of the worst things. Mostly because I sit here and I say, oh yeah, I want to talk about all of these things. But there is always this, so to speak, silent whisper, I guess, inside of oneself that says, no, yeah, yeah, this will get ripe, this will be more defined. You cannot just go through something out. Very much what I said before of, yeah, you cannot come here and talk about things with any previous thought. You're going to make a mess out of what you are saying. That's something not just personally, that's something that I keep on finding myself to be such a problem in general, even if I do not acknowledge myself as anybody who is just related to philosophy. It happens too much in any kind of these social disciplines, I guess. To be more precise, be it sociology, be it psychology, be it obviously philosophy, all of these things have so many great ideas. And I don't mean it just in the most technical way of, or most, in the highest echelons of these disciplines, only that people have great ideas, and everyone else certainly still abides by the same rules of they need to shut up. If you don't know what you're talking about, you should keep yourself quiet. No, I think that there is something that I still don't like about how social sciences work. That is, the social factor is not integrated at all, despite how the social entities themselves are so much of an emphasis. It will be wonderful. And this one I certainly recognize it's not that much of a change in anything. It's just me once again complaining, but man, what a nice thing it will be to see more daily normal people who haven't spent their whole life trying to understand things have a minimal saying on stuff that gets said about them. It's one of, at least personally speaking, it's so annoying to see people talk about some issues as if they were the most ununderstandable problem of the world, when you have people who have those issues, who are so willing to speak about them if they were to ever be asked. It's such an annoying thing. It's very much the same thing as here. I certainly can recognize how stupid on one hand it is to come here and say anything without properly, I don't know, spending 100 hours thinking every single sentence that will be produced. That's one of the most obvious things, but at the same time, if the potential that is created or that gets brought to reality by accepting that even when it isn't in the brightest of its forms, we can still discuss about the stuff, even if we accept the flaws that it has in its design, even if we accept every single thing that it has as a negative, and deal with them as negatives that do not impossibilitate the possibility itself of enjoying what is created, so many things can happen. It's it's just a more complicated and more academically structuralized way of the same thing that I mentioned the other day. Oh yeah, you cannot move if you do not have everything prepared beforehand. Truly, we cannot talk about this stuff if there are not 1,000 previous lectures. It's the same thing. It's one of the most basic ideas even. You cannot come and talk to an audience and assume that they are complete idiots. It's the same thing. It's incredibly disrespectful. At least that's how I feel it to say to come here and say, oh yeah, you know what, I had to spend so much time dumbing it down so that everybody can understand. People can understand, man. People are so wonderful and so capable of getting what the point is once they have a minimal degree of interest. Nobody has the right to negate that from anyone else. It's one of the most admirable capacities of any human being, of the human species as a whole. As long as you are interested enough in something, no matter how complex the idea itself is, you can somehow adapt to what is being presented to you and learn it. That's one of the basic defining factors of being a kid. That no matter how weird the world is compared to what you are as just an innocent child of a human, you can still become part of that world. You can still understand the underlying systems that make up the society that you reside in. You can be part of your family, be part of your community, be part of everything else. Even if we have a child, we do not treat them as complete idiots. Yet somehow we stand here talking about this stuff like, oh yeah, we cannot mention anything complicated. We cannot say anything that might be too hard. Truly, man, that's how things get better, by having to spend every single day working on a formula that makes it understandable for everyone, because we don't even have a proper model about what the standard person is, but rather we're aiming at the lowest unit of thinking or something of the sort. It's disappointing, man. To some degree, I feel like it is disappointing. But I don't really. Somewhat, it's just something that you realize has its problems in some way. It's the way in which we used to arrange ourselves and not much more. It's just the way in which we used to go about things and nothing else. We we can't make a big deal out of stuff because that's the norm, but most, even so, that's the funny thing. Even if it is such a problem, we are still here. Main example, reality defying thing, if you wanna say it like that. There has been no problem about being here. Once again, counterpoint, the world doesn't care that much. If you have to give it more importance, it probably would be much different at some degree or other in later stages of development or whatever. But right now, we have had zero hiccups in many ways. So that's a fine enough. What is the basic operation of surviving in this whole world? It's more than fine enough. I feel like. But once again, I still don't know. It's just people care. Oh wow, yeah. Controversial take. People care about the wrong things, certainly. And it should never be a surprising thing to say. People don't like what I like. That's the more proper way to say it. People don't share my subjectivity. So I believe that I have the right to complain about it. Whatever, man. But yeah, that was one of the many things. And I guess also like the seconds to last that I had written down. How much? Anyways, I guess I have just one more thing that I did properly note. After that, yeah, I guess it will just me and try to accept that, yeah, even if I didn't consider completely what I was going to talk about, it doesn't mean that it's shit. So, anyway, the last one of the funny things that I have, and this one I bring it up exactly because I should have mentioned that the last time. I kind of just did a brief mention about the concept itself, nothing else, and that is this. I was talking about the last time about how one of the teachers I had wrote something and he didn't bother with explaining the stuff properly enough so that we could get it in time. He said something about we will need time to understand what he was talking about. We will find ourselves to be going back to what he said in the in that first year a lot later in life simply because some ideas require time. That's what started that, and that's where I left it. I had a point, and it kind of escaped my mind to properly mention that. That that's sadly the reality with most things. Most of, I will say, the complex ideas that have to deal with the world itself, with things, not that just one has an interest in. I would even lay that, argumentally speaking, if you care about something enough, you could make it work. You could make a concept fit inside your mind faster than if you gave zero craps about that same idea in a neutral context. But at the same time, there are some things that still require a lot more processing. It's this. I, I can also presented some part of this argument because the guy was talking not just about it happens out of nowhere. No, the degree of attachment that you have to previous beliefs makes it so that you cannot properly adapt yourself to newer ideas due to how they contradict what you used to think about before. So, for you to properly engage in anything, you would firstly require a proper integration of this new concept into your older system, which does not allow for the insertion of such a thing. So, in many cases, this process of trying to learn about things, trying to read authors, trying to find yourself to be so immersed in some texts is such an impossible task also. It's on one hand also because I had it myself. It's that unavoidable voice of, oh no, yeah, this is just a justification also. Most of the time this is just a justification for later on giving in to procrastination. But as long as you're aware that you will also use it as such an excuse, you can understand why in some cases there is such an unavoidable friction against things that you should be. In my case, I'm just talking about reading, acquiring knowledge, but the reality is there are also parts about integrating yourself with the knowledge that require you to do things. I mean, in the therapeutic process, you cannot really acquire any kind of proper new method to deal with the problems that you're given. Main example, cognitive behavioral therapy. If the different systems that this therapeutic method introduces to your life are not used by you, there is not going to be any progress. And it is an unavoidable reality that also the things that you are requested to do, if they are so against what you usually tend to do, you will need a lot of not just the recognition of the issue itself, but a will to be capable of doing what needs to be done in order to fix what was the previous problem that now you have also already identified and are requested to forcefully quote unquote deal with. It's in many ways an annoying thing because it's certainly the most necessary one to do. And in many cases that's the final point of this whole discussion of sadly it doesn't exist as an emptiness in the void, so to speak. You have things that you should be interested in doing. You have things that you should be interested in acting upon. That to some degree or another, you should be investing yourself into doing. But it isn't also just your fault for not doing them. Unavoidably, the human being who has to, out of nowhere, make a 180 degrees change in their ways is faced with so much adversity from themselves. And that's, I started with just the learning. You have to integrate some knowledge. You have to integrate later on some activities. This is still all just on the most basic level. When you take it outside of the human being, when you face it with everything else that has to deal with what the person is besides just the self, when the human being is considered as a social creature, you realize in so many cases also everything else that exists around the person doesn't allow them to change. And that's one of the many issues of this idea of things take time. It's, for example, earlier I don't know, I complain a fucking lot, but I think I was complaining exactly about this idea of people who quote unquote ask this question of are things going to get better? It isn't really a question, and it shouldn't be something that we should be discussing in the way in which we do. But at the same time, can we properly change something like that? Yes or no? The reality ends up being most of the time it's an impossibility to do something of that sort. Not because it is by itself completely unchangeable, but because in the way in which we operate right now, It is something that everybody knows how to follow. What is going to be introduced as a proper and completely serious, useful replacement for that previous mode of being? It's unavoidable to realize that many of the things that we are actually trying to talk about have or not things that need to be changed. If we cannot even recognize that at the same time it's impossible to introduce such changes in accordance with how we see things themselves, so to speak. Also, uh, sort of an aphasic moment, I lost myself in what the fuck I was saying. I hope that last sentence made sense. I wanted to say it's kind of impossible to properly introduce changes because the changes themselves are almost impossible to validate in reality. Sorry. It's starting to make too much shit up. So yeah, brain go. But anyways, that was the point. That sadly, not just knowledge, things require a lot more time than what is expected. I, I remember, for example, the main thing that I use for this when I am trying to picture it myself is how funny it results that in reality, I don't know, I have a hope. Goal is make world better. How it is possible to make world better? To take actions in certain ways. Reality ends up being to take action in certain ways, to change certain things out of the world, requires a lot more effort and a lot more struggle. Once again, why? Because the ways in which we used to work before, the way in which we used to work even today, is completely opposite to the solution. One of the most talked about issues is how can you introduce a change into the system, educational system, if you cannot be completely sure that it will work? How can you try to introduce a change in something like that if it will make everything else that already existed before that devoid of any validation even? It's an issue of you cannot really deal with something because you need to deal not just with the problem itself, but also with everything else that has to deal with the problem. You have to be capable of recognizing that there are a lot of things that are interconnected to this one issue. And in some cases, if you cannot properly deal with everything else, you will never get to the resolution of what you are looking for. If you are trying to understand something, trying to trace back to what I was talking about at the beginning, if you're trying to deal with some piece of knowledge, if you do not have all the previous theories, you cannot really get what's the point. That's one of the many things, for example, that I do not like even about what we discuss in school actually. We are talking about so many theories that they didn't appear out of nowhere. They are not in the void. They didn't. We're not even talking about main founding fathers of disciplines. We are talking about people who had a lot of other teachers. I remember, for example, I was talking about, I think it was reading Nietzsche. There are like three authors before Nietzsche. There are a dozen other authors that need to be read before him. You are talking about an author that seems to be very special. He isn't really unique in the way in which he talks about things. It is unique if you never before in your whole life read a book of philosophy, but the reality is most of the statements are somewhat similar to previously presented ideas by other people. It's in some way, shape, or form similar to what the teacher presented before. You cannot abandon everything else that came before that. You're not making yourself any kind of favor. It would be wonderful, certainly, if we've had the privilege of getting masters at summarizing stuff, but we do not. Most of the time, we do not have that privilege. So, the only option that remains is to go through the whole process. The very same thing happens with issues, with problems in reality, in the daily life. It would be wonderful if just an explanation will suffice to make things change. I don't know. We have hunger in the world. The countries of the world hear me, oh, lowly human, speak to you. We have hunger in the world. We shall solve world hunger. Why? Because in that way we will have one less problem to deal with. No, there is no way in which you can make a proper speech about it. There are some fundamental issues that are unavoidably secluded to a realm of only through the struggle of the resolution of the lowest denominator available to be dealt with until you can finally tackle the biggest one of the issues or the main issue itself at hand. Mm, it's the same thing in that level, in life, in learning anything. It's just the same thing. It will be magical. It would be a better reality, let's say it like that, if we had the possibility of just getting to whatever we want, the moment in which we want it. It doesn't happen. We do not got, we haven't gotten yet to that. We didn't gain that privilege, we didn't have that possibility. It's, at this point, it's just meaningless to keep on insisting about something that will not happen, I guess. That's that's that, I guess. I don't know. Do I really have anything else to say? That's the real question. Because that was the last thing I had written down. I have had already some things cross my mind, but at the same time, yeah, self-filtering and whatnot. That's so funny. I have seen so many people. I mean, that's like a common issue. I have seen so many people who could have done so many great things. This whole talk about potential and whatnot. There are so many people who could have achieved so many great things, not because they didn't get anywhere, but rather because the degree of self censoring that happens is such, the degree of doubting about one's capacities is such that it's surprising to see how little we talk about any of that. I wish it was more common to see people try what they want and do what they wish, but it's so baffling even to see people consistently say, yeah, I'm interested in doing this, yet they never allow themselves to do it. It's in that same sense very much the same thing here. Obviously, not to the same degree. I I understand myself. I have 1,000 different excuses as to why the things that I want to bring up might not be so useful. One of the many examples, I want to talk about semiotics. It's such a wonderful thing, but at the same time, it takes so much fucking time to develop. It's such a fucking long topic. It probably would be an stream in itself or something of that sort. Why? because there are ideas that require proper development. Once again, not to treat everyone like a child, but even so, complex ideas require time. So, there are things that need to be in an orderly manner given so that we can be on a very similar playing field in order to discuss them, so to speak, and whatnot. And I don't know. It's such a crazy thing. It's just baffling as a concept that at the same time, if I had to be honest, it's also a area of yeah, I have something that I wanna work on, but I don't really know if I should work on things or not. It's that very same thing. It's ideas. I guess most people has wonderful ideas. Not that it will be an insult to say nobody has great ideas. People are so magnific in that sense. It's nice to see how little things overlap in the field of ideas. How many diverse things can be done, even if to some degree they have similarities. You cannot fucking care so much about similarities. Everything is going to some degree to be similar to everything else. A basic concept. One of the things that is wonderful to talk about that I am not going to go into depth today. Rhizomatic thinking. The idea of the is it the rhizome on English? Rhizome? However you call it, the unit, that thing, everything is interconnected in some way. That's the importance of that. You cannot expect nothing to be completely unrelated to everything else. 300% originality in anything that is produced. It doesn't happen, man. It's a desire. It doesn't happen. But yeah, going back to the point is, and even then, seeing so many wonderful ideas, it's just weird to see how little action people takes. But I don't know. It's just if I had to guess, sometimes even if this whole conversation that I already had of or monologue or like of oh yeah, people should be taking more risks and whatnot, man. Sometimes even if you're not putting everything on the line, it does feel like that, and you fear that the consequences might be bad enough. You truly see things in a way in which you are not so sure that what you will get compared to the effort that you need to put in are going to be so good. In many ways, we have to constantly deal with I don't really know. Man. Is it truly worth it for me to try it? For me to try this thing? At this point, certainly, I cannot even compare just bringing up some random shit like I am doing right now to proper decisions of that sort. People who are faced with such challenges, be it in their life, be it in what they do, what they wish to create, what they wish to do, but that's the reality. Most people of that sort are weighed down by those things. It would be wonderful if it didn't need to happen. If the mind wasn't as powerful, let's say, we would have so many more events going on at all times. People would on one hand do more, but at the same time I don't even know if it is a proper trade-off to say, oh yeah, the mind shouldn't worry so much. At the very least, it can detect a flaw on something, even if it is a false flag, so to speak, even if it is a completely unnecessary over exaggerated reaction that it has to the idea of something, not even to the reality. Not that we are failing right now. It isn't the complete reality, everything is going bad, no. But the initial detection of this might be more dangerous than everything else. Therefore, you must avoid doing this one thing. If you want to have a safe life, you should avoid doing this one thing. It's basic human instinct. It's stupid to say, oh yeah, no, I hope to have this or no more. It's I would go as far as to say it's a sort of fucking death wish to say something of that sort. You are just abandoning all previous reason. Many of the things that we do them based on such norms and such arrangements of reality. But I don't know, it's still in another way complicated. It's just it also feels just like justifying it too much also is meaningless. It's if you truly have a desire, if you truly have something that you want to, I think it's not being honest enough with oneself to say, yeah, you know what, I want to do it. I want to experience that thing. I want to try and do it at the very least. That's the main issue. I mean, kind of. I don't know if I properly said it in this way yesterday. I am pretty yesterday, not the last time I was here, but it should be an obvious staple of do, do I really love this thing? Then why can't I bring myself to do it, man? If I love it to such a degree, why can't I just risk it? Even if it is a risk, it's worth taking. I find it to be interesting enough. And I do remember I was thinking about it. This is the problem. This exact point is the problem. Is it reasonable to think that people doesn't love the stuff that they do to such a degree that they fear failure at that point that much just because it might go wrong? I don't know, man. If I had to try and make it sound less stupid, probably, I would say most people just have horrible experiences. I know at the very least a handful of people who could do amazing things if they were to propose themselves to get to where they dream of. If they were to do the things that they know they should be trying to do, that they have dreamed about for so long. But the problem is, in every other occasion that they already tried before, it results in complete failure. It results in a negative result. It results in something bad, and not just, oh wow, my coffee is a little bit warm instead of hot today, but it's my house fucking burned down. I need a place to live. I need somewhere to remake everything else that I used to have bad. That sort of bad. And it's once again what I mentioned before. It makes sense if the present that you're living in is filled of the things that you should have dealt with before. You're not going to be capable of enjoying the future. But at the same time, that's also the issue that I was talking about. So many people are unwilling to recognize that. That's the part that becomes annoying. Man, don't you see how many things you could achieve if you were to even take. Okay, 1 year. 1 year is such a fucking man. We're already gone through half 2025 at this point. It felt like, I don't know, I look back and on one hand it certainly felt a lot longer than half a year. But on the other one, it feels like just a week, man. 1 year doesn't take that long. If I don't know, if somebody were to promise me, or if I were to finally realize I can fix my life in just 1 year, I will certainly do it, man. You know how wonderful it will be to do what I wish to do, to dedicate myself to the things that I say that I like to other people, to be honest with what I like to begin with, to be capable of realizing that I want to do those things, I want to be capable of enjoying those things. That's the point in which it becomes annoying. It becomes a burden of some degree to hear someone else say, no, yeah, yeah, this is such a meaningless activity. I don't know, man. I don't really see how it's so useful to be so reluctant of change to that degree. Not to, oh yeah, I, I can't even try because it might be risky. Hey, once again, basic, yet another basic thing. Everything is risky. Doing nothing is riskier than everything else. Wishful thinking is such a meaningless thing, man. To some degree, you look in the mirror and you realize, yeah, I have been wishing for things my whole life. They are not going to happen just because I wish that they did. I might be needing to take some action. I don't know. Some people, I guess, that's not the real conclusion. That's not the real conclusion. Not that some people just never get to that point. Some people don't really want to acknowledge that it happens, man. It it hurts too much to realize that you are wrong. Accepting that you are wrong is such a fucking problem in and of itself. I don't know, for example, main idea, biggest example possible. Do you want to realize how horrible it would be to know that you were wrong? Consider the following example. Tomorrow, somebody comes to you and they tell you everything that you have said up to this point has been wrong. You might as well, at that point, most people, even if it sounds, oh wow, you cannot say that, it's just for the edge of saying it, you will probably think at that point about killing yourself. It doesn't make sense that everything that you did up to a certain point was wrong. It doesn't compute, it doesn't make anything worth it. If you have to recognize that what you were doing was wrong, you have so many troubles to deal with after that. Just the recognition doesn't make anything change. The steps that come after that are the hardest things. Everything else becomes more complex. Even if the future after that point seems to be somewhat better, even if there is some degree of a promise on the other end, I don't know. You can see to some degree how things might at some point finally achieve a better state if you were to trust more in stuff, or if you were to finally change your ways, whatever. But it doesn't stop it from, man, I have so much work to do. I have to recognize that I was wrong. I won't do it. Anyways, I guess I haven't been drinking that much today, really, so I don't. Well, I mean, kinda. On the other hand, I have. It isn't like I really have not drunk anything at all, but the point is another idol break. Thank you very much. I don't know. That's that, I guess. That's the other idea I had. It's, it feels like a good note, but yeah. I mean, okay. I have exactly the next thing that I wanna talk about next. Not. It feels like a good ending note, yet it isn't. That's the reality. Let's say like that. Now I will break. Thank you. What the fuck? This way. Ah, wait. I kinda forgot to change the screen. Anyways. Wow. We are so comfy. Also, I don't know. You can call me paranoid, but if I don't see till the fucking microphone volume go up and down, I don't know if I am muted or not. So show me that on screen, thank you. Anyways, going back to what I was saying before, I I remember exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, that could be a great end point. You know, one of the many wonders of a speech is that it natural speech doesn't really follow a pattern to begin with, and second place, most important one really, and also it means nothing to say that because most of the time, I guess I probably at this point, being honest, I have said it too many times. So yeah, I'm feeling tired. I wish I did nothing else. I wish many times I said, "Oh yeah, feeling, feeling it. I'm feeling a sleepy." Whenever I used also to stream at night here, for example, it was all for nothing to say that and later on find myself 2 hours later after having finished the stream to still be up. So, no. Uh, we don't trust the guy who says, yeah, this is a good ending point. That guy, fucking shoot him. Anyways, that's that's the main reason as to why, indeed, one has to trust their own capacities. Even with doubts, it's better to believe in the doubts themselves and try to prove that they are right than to believe that one might never do anything and live with the just impression that one might never achieve anything and not try it at all, let's say, if you're not going to cheer for the positive side because being positive is such an impossible or such an antithetical mode of being compared to what you regularly used to do, you can at the very least cheer for the negative side and play it. Not completely bad. Not I mean, main example. I could sit here and say, oh my god, can I go, for example, for 3 hours? Can I make sure that I live here tired or not? Can I make sure that anything that I say results in me ending and finally doing nothing else, just hitting there and doing no? I have no way of knowing that. But I can also play it wrongly and say, yeah, you know what? If the point is just to go for as long as I can until I fall asleep, I can easily let that open and do nothing else. Make as if I wasn't here. Wow. No, not in that way. You try your best to make the worst happen, or to try and see if the worst truly is going to happen. You try your best in that way. That's also another mode of operation. Better than to just give up, man. That is the main discussion. How many ways there are of trying things instead of just giving up, just conceiving the game, so to speak. That's the annoying thing of hearing other people speak about such stuff. Oh yeah, you know how easy it is to just do nothing. To just no, man. I don't know. I think you haven't given up enough. You haven't given up on something that you truly cared about when you say something like that. The remorse eats you alive, man. Even when you're not actively abandoning the things that you like, when you're just retrieving for 1 second, you already feel it. But that's the sort of going back to it, even the sort of stuff that has to deal with passions and whatnot. There are so many people that have so many interests to some degree that that child that liked to draw still finds itself drawing, even if from time to time, even if in just a tiny, meaningless sketch that you will later on throw away in a paper towel, in a piece of canvas that it will be unavoidably erased. Even if all of that is true, still the love for things doesn't fully disappear. One doesn't. At this moment, I'm literally recycling a line of a movie, sort of, but it's impossible to get the passions out of the body. If you like something truly enough so that you can find yourself doing it, no way you're going to abandon that. It would be wonderful on one hand because it would show you how you can change completely. But there are certain things on the other that no matter how much you try to deny it, you cannot say, no, yeah, I don't have an interest for this. And I don't know. I guess that's the reality. So many people trying to live in a world in which the things that they wanna do, no, not. That's the problem. Also, things that they wanna do. What the fuck does that mean? And instantly, mental mental line comes and says, "Oh yeah, things that they wanna do. Are you talking about prohibited things? Are you talking about bad things? No, brother, be fucking reasonable. We're talking about good stuff. We're talking about nice stuff. Previous example was art. Anything else. Anything else on that line of good things. Don't make it fucking weird. Anyways, continuing with the point of any kind of thing. Any kind of thing that people want needing to be abandoned. It's I don't get it truly. How so many people believe that they can keep going the rest of their lives with such a wound. It's it's a sad reality, I guess. in that sense. To see so many, it insulting on one hand, obviously, but on the other one, corpses walking around. If they are not being fulfilled by anything, if everything that they are living is just to say that they haven't died yet, that they are fulfilling their place in existence, I wouldn't call that a good existence per se. It's at least valid in in that it isn't defying the basic rule of, oh yeah, you have to live your life. Wow, but man, if there are so many wonderful things that one could wish to do that one isn't doing, what is truly the point? I mean, once again, also, not on the other hand, wow, good things. Okay, we establish good things. Can they be egotistical, completely self-centered things? On the other hand, also, please, man, don't make it fucking twisted. Don't make me clarify my words. We know what we are talking about. Don't force me to say, oh yeah, things that make the world a better place, things that make you feel accomplished as a human being who has found their place. Most people don't even have that privilege, man. It sounds condescending to have to say it to some degree. It's disappointing to be talking about it in this way. It's I don't know. You want to talk about depression? That's the real depression. Having to see somebody walk around who has so many interests that they cannot fulfill in any way, that will make them happy, will make everyone else around them happy. All of those things are what are being talked about here. And it's the constant struggle for all of those events to keep on existing if they do to some minimal degree, or the resurrection of what was an already destroyed passion in those who believe that they can detach themselves from what they liked before, from what they have always liked. But I don't know, man. We still have too much hate about, or too much hate on anything that has to do with liking stuff. Being passionate is still a problem. Being interested in I, it will be dishonest to say, oh yeah, your hobby. No, if something is your passion, it isn't your hobby. It is just that. It is just your passion, man. If you're passionate about something, you cannot conceive it as a hobby. I don't think. I know it is binary thinking. It's kind of meaningless to conceive it as that. But being honest, also sitting on oh yeah, this is just a passion is kinda, this is just a passion that I keep as a hobby. It's also insulting. You know that you can do so much more with what you truly like. I don't know. It's just what it is, I guess. Just people learn to deal with that. Yeah. At least we don't have such a problem. If nothing else, we don't have such a problem. And if nothing else, we can even more keep talking about it in such a way. Find possibilities of expressing ideas about such situations that it doesn't sound so fucking depressing. There are certainly people who had to abandon what they liked, but once again, even the most grown up, quote unquote, adults, you find them doing what they loved since they were a child, in some way, shape, or form. The capacity to play, to imagine yourself and do the things that you loved in a completely reimaginated way. to restructure everything so that you feel that satisfaction is what makes it so wonderful. I guess if nothing else, that's the also one of the issues that it seems to be such a coveted secret and nothing else. That oh yeah, you can make anything that you want be interesting. And on one hand, it's bad to say it. On the other one, it's the reality, man. If you can justify what you wanna do enough so that you can see it, even if it is the most boring or annoying or hurtful thing to do, as a necessary thing to do, it will unavoidably happen that you will commit to it. Yet we cannot talk about it. It seems to be that's one of the things that I do not like about the intellect, about being a being itself that can understand things. That's the side of the ego that says, "What? What are you talking about? Man, I just told you what I'm talking about. You already know what I'm talking about. You find a way to justify anything and you can do it. There are thousands of examples on history about that. There have been incredibly horrible events that even can show you how proper justifications move things forward. You can find a proper way to do something that you might not like so much. You can find a proper way to live a life that might not seem to be the best. And it is done. The game of life itself is, so to speak, brought to a state of being solved. It's not so complicated. What's the impossibility of getting something to on that level? But I don't know. I really don't know. That's always the final thing to accept. One doesn't know anything, so whatever. So sometimes I even forget how the clock sounds from how much I'm speaking. I guess hearing myself and paying attention to what I am trying to say. But I don't know, it's still calming. I guess. I mean, at the same time, if nothing else, it even is still faster than a properly calm heart. But it is. Is it just? That's. I mean, that's my interpretation. I don't think it's a proper one, but take into consideration that 1 minute is 60 seconds and 60 seconds at the same time have this sort of sound. I don't think it is that far-fetched of a theory to say that the sound of a clock going at its normal rate is very much similar to the sound of a heartbeat, something that is commonly shown to be a calming sound and whatnot. So I guess that's also why so many people like it, even if it's literally just that some clock going. But whatever. I don't know. You first have to ask yourself, I guess, what's really the point? What's at this stage? What's the point? Hasn't everything that was important being said? What's there left to demonstrate? That's also one of the many questions of existing. Why, in so many ways, why does one do the things that they do? It's such an annoying thing, even. to not be capable of recognizing, yeah, maybe I'm not doing it because I want to do it myself. It's just because I wanna show someone something else. I am happy already with what I have. I'm happy already with what I did. I just feel like the rest should be capable of seeing anything. But at the same time, I mean, that's part of having patience with the rest of the world. I think that's one of the many things. I don't know if I say it today or just thought about it. At this point, certainly, if anything, my brain is kind of fucked from too much thinking, but that's one of the wonderful wishes to have infinite patience, to be capable of waiting for as long as it is needed, man. Because you can see it on learning stuff. Okay, it's so easy, but sometimes is it truly that hard? Do I truly need to do it? So, I don't know. I don't know. And over the same thing, just that the point gets across. The idea is understood. What we are trying to talk about gets to any proper degree of perception. That's that's one of the funny things even. That's hearing so many people always talk about it is always funny. How it sort of is an understandable thing. Anybody who dreams knows that in the act of dreaming, it also is the act of waiting. You need to wait so much for things. Not that it will be wonderful that everything happened whenever you wished it to, and that surely is true. But man, it's so incredible just how much you just need to wait for the stuff. Waiting is the proper game. That's part of what makes life interesting. How we are going to wait. Because it doesn't need to be a pain, I mean. It doesn't be to it doesn't need to be such a torture. It's just staying there, letting things happen. Things are always happening anyway, so just accepting that they will happen, even if not in the way that one wants them to. But that's enough. That is more than enough. I don't know. Anyways, completely. Anyways, I guess now I can finally say that I am feeling like it's like finally going to well. So yeah, um, yeah, I should probably try to not miss so many days. The issue is I already have an excuse in the chamber. I already have the excuse of, oh wow, we are close to exams. I'm not somebody who studies that much already, so it means nothing to say, wow, we are close to exams. But yeah, if I don't appear, know that I will be shielding myself with excuses like that one. So yeah. Anyways, should we? Main question. Uh, raid? Question mark. My how much I hate Twitch, brother. Why? Why does it not work? Why does this platform not work? Let me check. Anyways, what? Yeah, I guess. Fuck. I Yes, right. That's the final conclusion. That was the final conclusion all along. Right. So yeah, no idea where, but somewhere. Anyways, thanks for editing. I don't think saying tomorrow is realistic, but I also don't like the idea of making promises. That's like fucking bad because I break them, not because of anything else. But if everything goes well, tomorrow we will be here. I wouldn't trust myself. And no, yeah, as always. Not, thanks for the stream. Thanks for listening. It's all. Um, what what's there is one word that resumes the whole idea of it's all same. If not, I would have thought about it myself. What's a pleasure is to know that anyone else is willing to hear it, I guess. So yeah, thanks for being there. But yeah, I don't know. I reached peace today, so yeah. Which one is the right button? This one. Haha, haha, I forgot that fucking Twitch cannot raid with the raid function. I need to find somebody and oh, you know what? Just because of that, I wouldn't raid. I fucking hate this platform. Anyways, thanks so much, Twitch, for hosting me, despite me completely hating on you every single day. I should raid. I I feel bad. I raided a couple recently. Simon recently. Recently, I haven't streamed in like a month. What the fuck I am talking about? What is this thing? Okay, sorry. I was going to say. I tried it all recently. I didn't, brother. I did that like probably 1 or 2 months ago. Anyway, going there. Anyway, don't worry. The real point is, see you next time. I don't think tomorrow. I I was like, why the fuck raid isn't working? It is. It just took a fucking long time. Anyways, goodbye, people. As always, thanks for everything. It has been a pleasure. I miss Crespian already. Oh, I miss Crespian. But yeah, thanks for being here. It, it has been very nice. No excuses. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I will never use an excuse. So yeah. Anyways, until next time. Until tomorrow. I okay. Anyways, have a good night and entertain yourselves with Go. Please and thank you. That's more entertaining. I guess I don't know. Also, it doesn't take me there. At the final edition, I used the right function. It doesn't take me there automatically. I fucking hate you, Twitch. Yeah, and the final message for I don't know whoever said or clicked stay behind. What the fuck are you doing here? Why didn't you watch the raid? Also for the people who watch videos, thank you very much. Fucking shit, me going to grab the fucking mouse. This isn't connected.